So I thought I'd do a different style today. This is just a typical day during half term. First thing I do as soon as I get in is blast the tunes out. Always got music going on in my lab. Thought I'd just show you some of the experiments and the projects that I've got going on at the minute. Packing up some of the projects that we finished this year. First things first, make a cup of tea as soon as I get in. So the atmosphere and the vibe is really different compared to term time. Term time is always really busy, really manic, and this is completely the opposite. There's no students, there's no staff really apart from the other support staff that are in. Just work at your own pace and just get the jobs that need to get done finished. Normally in the half term, get in pretty late. Term time is so busy, I always end up staying late at least a couple of times in the week so I can make that time back. And unless there's any really crazy deadline, it's really just sort of pottering around and tying things up and getting things ready for the next term. This is a nice time of the year because we're finishing up all of the year 11s and the sixth formers, getting ready for their exams that's going to start in May. So now we can start picking up other projects, extracurricular trips, tying up the last few experiments of the year, making plans for our downtime and all of that other good stuff. First port of call today is the culture boxes. So we use them for keeping live animals, and we're going to be keeping wood lice in them. Roly-polies, cheesy bugs, pill bugs, whatever you want to call them. Now we're using them for this respiration practical. Heard of lots of people using maggots or they use mealworms, and I have used them before, but I always tend to find that the students tend to treat the wood lice with a bit more respect. I think because they're a little bit less ugly and they've kind of grown up with them, they tend to just be a lot nicer to them. This is still a bit of a work in progress, but what's happening here is you've got soda lime in the bottom, which is absorbing the CO2 that's being given off by the respiring wood lice. In a closed system with a little capillary tube where you put a little bit of blue food dye in there. Negative pressure causes a vacuum, which causes the bead of food dye to be travelled across the tube, and then you can measure rate of respiration. We've added these little aquarium heaters so each group can alter the temperature and they can do effective temperature on rate of respiration. Even though I've miniaturized this kit, it seems that they need quite a lot of wood lice for it to get going. They need about 7 or 8 wood lice. Our labs are set up in rows, so there's 7 rows. So I figured if I had 7 cultures on the go, that should be enough wood lice. These cultures do tend to crash and they peak and trough quite a lot. So I'm actually going to do 10 cultures most likely. But this experiment is still very much a work in progress. I've still not quite dialed it in yet, but I'm getting some pretty promising results. To get my first set of really good usable data this year, so hoping soon I'll be able to finish this up. Ended up getting loads of little shavings of plastic everywhere, so I thought I'd give them a really good rinse with distilled water, make sure they're really clean, and then I'm going to sort those cultures out later on in the week. Loads of holes in these for making sure they've got good ventilation, so hopefully these cultures will do well. So the next job is to take down these bottle ecosystems. These bottle ecosystems I've been working on all year with a few different classes, and I really think I've dialed it in. So there's salt water and we're keeping brine shrimp in there. The brine shrimp are just absolutely beautiful to look at. They are such cool little creatures. We use this for our ecosystems and ecology topics. Essentially, all we're doing here is setting up a fish tank, and ideally it will go through and show us all the phases of the nitrogen cycle. So you should be able to see bacterial bloom, algal bloom, and then population boom. So weirdly enough, with these, I think what you want to do is break all of the fish tank rules. So I've gone for a fairly small volume of water. Normally it recommends 2 litres, but I've gone for 1 litre, which should spike the ammonia initially, causing a bacterial bloom, and then that should spike the nitrogen, which will cause an algal bloom. Then with this time, what I've done is I've left the light on 24/7 without turning it off. Run I had before earlier this year, I actually had it with a timer on, and so it was turning off in the evenings. And I have had success with these in the summer, providing that there's enough sunlight, which is pretty hard to come by in England. So site team have rigged me up with this fluorescent tube lamp. It's a really long tube lamp from an old hall. And I've just left it on all term, and that has caused the algal bloom to be a lot quicker. Also, gentle heat from the lamp has kept the temps up, which has allowed for the egg laying and the reproduction to happen a lot faster. This is for sure how I'm going to do it again next year. And I'll scan in and upload my sheet on TES, which can be used throughout the whole of ecosystems and processes for carbon cycle and water cycle, as well as nitrogen cycle. That is those topics finished for another year. So now we're going to look at aspirin synthesis. This is one of the year 13 practicals in A-level chemistry. And this is a page out of my lab book. Students have to do their own lab book as part of the course, and I like to do one too. I've already half prepared this aspirin synthesis. I'm just grabbing some extra bits. These Bunsen burners are quite nice for water baths. Got this nice little handle on them, which makes them good for controlling the heat. These are from SLS, Scientific Lab Supplies. A few of these for the sixth formers. This is a pink one that a teacher specifically asked for. I really enjoy doing this lab book. It's nice to set a good example for the students. Notes from last year say we're going to heat under reflux up to 65 degrees. We started putting condensers in the fridge. That's a tip from another technician. I'm not quite sure how much difference it will make in reflux, but it really does make a massive difference in distillation. The thing with that is you've got to warm up the end of the tubes because they're cold and brittle. And the next job for this practical is the classic technician duties of washing up. It's a pretty run-of-the-mill task of the job in any industry, but I've done a few things in my new lab to make it really, really easy, less laborious. DI water in my lab off an RO unit, which is slightly annoying because it's not perfectly clean, but it's so much more economical. It's good for the environment, saves the school a bit of money, and it's good value for money for the taxpayer. I use these little extendable drying racks from Amazon. And people are going to go in at me for not wearing gloves. Look, these have already been passed through a dishwasher, and I'm just making sure that all the detergent, all the salt is out of them. So I'm doing triple rinses with the DI water just to be 100% sure. This is a USB travel shower head pump. We have a few of these dotted around the lab, which makes DI water on tap really, really easy when you're making solutions on the desk where there's no water. They're doing a lot of purification steps in with their aspirin synthesis, so realistically this washing up is probably not super necessary, but in every A-level chem practical, the glassware is cleaned scrupulously. So I think it's just good practice. There's one of the DI pumps on the desk there on the right. Stack that up and leave that to dry. This practical isn't for another 2 weeks, so I'm just real ahead of the game. So I just need to grab one more bit of kit, so I'll take you to one of the storerooms. This is where all my spare glassware goes, and I just need to get a sidearm flask for vacuum filtration. This rolling storage was actually pretty cheap. We used to have a really big wooden one, but this one's made out of sheet metal, and they basically put a false floor in to run the runner on there. Fairly cheap, and they can basically be put in anywhere. So we're going from aspirin synthesis, which uses a really nice variety of advanced techniques for the sixth formers, down to year 7s. This is basic filtration. So we're going to be purifying rock salt through filtration, through gravity filtration. Super easy. We do sets of 16 here, so it's 1 between 2. Very rarely I might do singles, and we only ever do singles for A levels, really. But I would love to do one each if the class sizes were smaller and we had more resources. I have visited other private and international schools where they do have sort of classes of 16 where they're allowed to do that, and it's unbelievable. Just really small classes, everyone's got one each. The management's a lot easier as well. But hey, that's just me whinging about the state of education in the UK. So I do quite like this practical because it is a technique that will carry them through all the way to A-level. Using this rock salt, which is the same stuff they put on the roads to de-ice it. It's full of grit and sand. But it's a really nice way to use some real key practical concepts. What's soluble, what's insoluble, what solvent do you use, and how do you separate them out? Now I keep accidentally ordering this really thick filter paper. When I was training, we used Wattman, which has its own grading system. Wattman now is so expensive, and I have accidentally given out really thick, slow filter paper before the kids have been there for ages waiting for it to filter through. And the particulate that they're going to be filtering out is so big. I mean, we are filtering out stone, basically, sand, grit, stone. So you need something quite thin, they can go through pretty quick. You're supposed to evaporate off in evaporating basins, but actually, I have found the last couple of years, I am now exclusively using Petri dishes. They are so good for making crystals. Copper sulfate, NaCl, whatever you want. They're so cheap, plastic, and I'll reuse them a few times until they've gone cloudy, you know? Really good feedback from the kids and the teachers when we move to these. I'm guessing it's the surface area and how flat it is. Here's an actual evaporating dish, and you can kind of see that bowl shape. I don't think it's very good compared to a Petri dish. Looking at this and I'm thinking, what have I forgotten here? Oh yes, the funnels. Bit of a hot take here. I'm not using DI water with this practical. If somebody wants DI water, they can always add it onto their requisition because they've thought about it and they thought that they really would like to illustrate the point they use DI water. But the point of this practical isn't that, it is actually to teach them a really integral lab technique. But I like to see it on a record because it means that a teacher has actually put some full thought into their lesson planning. So the glassware's already in the room, so that tray's done and finished. Nice little job for this afternoon. I just thought I'd go and check out something I saw on Instagram. Down by this oak tree at the front of school, and genuinely, it looks like I've staged this, but first when I turned around, these are acorns, a seed off of an oak tree, and this is a germinating seed. And yeah, it's possible to grow these out. So I thought it might be a nice little fun project for a tutor group or something. All of the science teachers have got their own tutor group. Quite enjoy doing these little springtime projects. Sometimes we'll grow caterpillars or frog spawn or something like that. Be really cool if we could grow an oak tree. I just love those oak tree leaves, so that'll be really fun. My final little job for the day is just some admin tasks. I'm the senior technician, so I have to do a lot more admin compared to the other technicians. Additionally, I run trips and projects across the year as well. But you also got to do health and safety risk assessments, audits, all of that stuff gets done in the half terms. But this one's just orders, so I want a couple more of those Bunsen burners. They were really, really nice. We got a big A-level class coming through next year. So definitely want some more of those little Bunsen burners. So whack them onto an order form. That is it really, that is my day and a half term. Currently working on a fairly big video, so I thought I'd do this kind of blog style. So let me know if you like it, and that's it really. That's kind of a snapshot of half term for a school lab tech. We'll see you next time.